maybe. Well, I don't know what to say, really. I mean,
I'm
I'm
so
good.
happy about this. You're doing
What's
good. Is there like a delay so I know? Because I can't tell, but like if there is, I can slow down. There
no,
might be
no.
like
I think it's just the energy, basically. Here,
a
let me turn it on and make sure it's on. Here,
okay.
I'll tag you on it. How about that? Let's see. Yeah, there it is. All right, let me just tag you on it because
Okay.
it's gonna take a bit for people to come in.
Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
I see it already.
Oh, you see it? Okay, here we go. Boom.
Yeah.
All right, there we
Oh
go.
my gosh. Todd, I'm not tech savvy. Listen. Oh my goodness. It's and especially like you said, especially this week, this month, this summer.
Oh my God, this summer from the summer?
Oh,
I
I
think
can't
I
even.
I think Morgan turned me on to you like I want to say like what month is this? I
We're
want to say
already in November. We're in November.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
We're about to be it's 11/11 in the southern hemisphere right now. But
Oh my,
I think
that's
it was like
terrible.
April or May. And
Okay.
yeah, you got that unicorn energy, like you're pulling this stuff in and you're like, it's very consistent and it's very you can feel a truth frequency. We don't
Mhm,
always understand the downloads that people get, I mean,
mhm.
it's not always in our language, but you can feel the resonance of it. There's a lot of people like that, and I like to see that coming out. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, well, welcome to the show. Have you ever been on a?
Thank you
Have
for
you ever?
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have you ever done a talk show or anything like that?
Yeah, just a couple of interviews. I did one with Far Out with Faust Chicho. If you know, so
Okay,
that was pretty cool. And
right.
then Caroline, which I'm trying to think of the name of her show, but you're gonna know if I can think. So there have been a couple,
Right.
but I mostly have my nose to the grindstone.
So what is that
Been doing
like
that so much.
in the life of Yolanda Marie? I mean, now where are you located? You're in Florida, right?
I'm in Florida now, but it's like I'm buy local physically and otherwise. Okay, so my kids and I would go back up to Wisconsin, where I'm originally. That's where I parted ways from Wisconsin and came south with the kids as per guidance, right? This is a lot of the times we do these things, we go when we're supposed to go, and I needed to be near the water.
Okay.
A lot of things were going on. And because my kids are still with me, and I don't talk about a lot of the details of a lot of that. In fact, we'll be headed back up that way so they can be near other family here in a couple weeks, like before
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
You're going up
People
there for
that
that.
listen to me, they know this. They know I'm here and there every year.
You're going up there for that good weather.
Yeah, we're crazy. We go into the snow, Todd.
So we don't have to get too personal, but just, on the general, how old are your kids? How many do you have with you? Because I'm always amazed by people, particularly these women that have children in the house and they're pulling down all this intel and just doing everything. Like,
It's crazy. Well, I only have the two. So,
okay.
but I know what you're saying. I have two boys.
Mm,
And so 13, and I have an 18-year-old
wow.
too. They're
Wow.
both bigger than me.
Well, wow. Yeah, and just real quick on that subject, how is it with the kids? I mean, the kids are just bringing in all kinds of stuff. It's just amazing. Some of the
It is,
stories.
yeah, yeah. They make their own path, they make their own choices, and I allow them to do that. I
Yeah.
feel like there can be a lot of judgment around that, which is also good. That's fine. It's all good. But I definitely picked up on early that, like when I was new to even being, like my guidance was that I was supposed to teach and I was bringing in messages, and I didn't really know what much of that meant right away, a few years ago. So But I picked up, Mother Bear, you know what I'm saying? Picked up
Right.
quite early to let the kids have their choices and live whichever, if it's very 3D, whatever it is. And they
Okay.
made their own choices and came into their own expansion on their own, of course, with my frequency though, because we hold the frequency
Of course. Yeah.
and then everything flows in. And so they definitely made their choice to, oh my gosh, Todd, do you remember? Because you said April, but I don't know if this was actually after April, probably June. There was this huge shift, or maybe it was May. I'm not good with memory
June,
with
I
all
think it
this.
started about June 15th. I think somebody
You may
shot a
be
start.
right.
Yeah.
We had a huge shift, and I tuned into you guys, and I know that might be Morgan found me before that. Well, I found you guys way before all that anyway.
Mm.
But with Morgan's frequency, what you guys were creating such a portal of healing for people that I was that's what I'm drawn into. That it's like a radar.
Mm.
Okay, it's like how I see it's like a radar. So I was like, yep, okay, so they're about to pull in all of these energies and clear them and just help them stay clear so they'll be able to keep rising. And sure enough, all this stuff was happening. It was crazy. And there was this intense shift. I mean, people were like feverish, night sweats. I mean, like the what we call ascension symptoms went completely insane. It was, I mean, I get the feeling that because you guys tapped in earlier in terms of fully before I did. This is what I'm hearing so far. Now you're going to correct me. Please do if I'm wrong. But
Keep
I feel
going.
like I didn't fully come on until later after you guys. So I feel like you might have experienced something close to this before I did. But I couldn't believe it, Todd. I couldn't believe it. And then when I heard other people, including Morgan and Red, because I'm reading a lot, right, through Facebook and all that, reading some of these similarities, it was quite mind-blowing.
Right.
So yeah. And then of course the Arcturians come in and they confirm all of it. They're just like bringing all this information in. And when it comes in, I don't really connect the dots until after it's out. And then after it comes out of me, which I
Right.
don't remember half of it, and then it comes out of other people. And then it's like, this really happened.
Right. Right.
It was something.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I've noticed that for years. I mean, I think we all do that. It's weird. You get it, you put it out, and you haven't really embodied it. And then you embody it, right? And this
Mhm.
period you're talking about, I don't know, but and I don't know that, that her or I were conscious of what you're saying. It feels very resonant.
Mhm.
Uh, now that I can stand here after like the last couple of days, because it feels like I thought things were going to lift. I didn't think. I was told
Mhm.
everything's going to
Yeah.
blow open and break through next week. And
Okay.
about 2 days, and I got cleaned out. You asked me, how I was doing. I got cleaned out. I talked about it, in all
Mhm.
ways. I mean, in every way, which
Mhm.
was the same rhythms of 10 years ago to the day of when I went homeless. And, there was a
Wow.
whole kind of, I was
Oh my
very
gosh.
sensitive to those rhythms. And then a couple of days ago, things started to lift. And I don't
I
even know
can't
how to
believe that
explain all this. I
10
mean,
years to the day though. See that? This is
mhm,
what I'm saying. That's
yeah. And
10
like
years to the
even
day.
like listening to you, yeah, just to conclude that, but like
Mhm.
what you were saying about you put it out and then you see other people. Now I don't put a lot of stuff out, but I'm out
Mhm.
there and I see how everybody's intel is converging. It's just a
Yeah.
different story. So I listen to what you're saying and I know there's a truth frequency to it. I still don't understand it all. But
Well, they're parallel truths. It's funny you mentioned that because that's been coming through a whole lot as well, because we're coming into this sense of oneness, but it's maintaining a certain measure of individuality at the same time.
yes,
So both
exactly.
are true. And so now that we're realizing, all of us, that we're able to hold these parallel truths because the speech is going to definitely we're going to express it different ways across cultures, across all different sorts of what we think are separative boundaries, right?
Right.
The language is going to sound different. The energy is going to feel a little bit different in our body, the way the message comes in. It's all different, but they're parallel truths.
Yes.
They're the same, or they're a story that interlinks, that builds to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, for instance, a particular set of frequencies that expose what it is collectively that we really want to see here on this planet.
Yeah. It's like
So, yeah,
everybody's saying the same thing, but they don't know it. And it's like this,
yep,
it's like this universal language is forming, and it's forming in this dense reality, this dense playground, and it involves so much now. Like, on point is the voice, it be heard. But on top of that, there's all this geometry and frequency and resonance and colors. You know what I mean? I mean, these things are coming in. That's how I kind of see it. I see it like,
it's gorgeous.
yeah,
Yeah, even through the pain. I just wanted to say,
the pain.
yeah, I
What
know,
pain?
right? Even through, I know all of it. It's like, say, what now?
I look at pain totally different today. I actually don't have a problem with it. Suffering, I have a problem with, but pain,
Mhm.
we just have a different relationship
It's
now.
part of it. It's part of it. And it becomes less and less like, I didn't even realize, and I won't talk about that too much here just because there's still so much going on with this, but I tend to pick up on these group initiations, and by group, large group, typically a pretty large group of people who might be expressing things in different ways. And so if they were to meet each other, they might say it two completely different ways, but they're going through the same exact, well,
Right.
not exact, but a similar enough sort of rising to this next level of something. Okay, whether it's in a particular soul group and they don't know it, or these two soul groups have merged, whatever it is. So, but I just pick up on what I pick up on, okay? And normally when it comes out, it's because somebody needs to be activated into the awareness of it. Okay,
Right.
that's been just my experience through me. That's one way to look at it, right? And so yeah, so I was, and listen, Todd, I'm a skimmer. I'm like what I like to call a skimmer. So instead of reading a whole message all the time,
Me
my
too.
Gemini brain will skim it, get the points, and
Yeah.
then I'll tune in. I feel, just like you
Right.
said, I'll feel the truth. I'll feel the resonance. And then
Right.
I even ask my guides, can I share this? It's mostly can I, because I always want to share. Can I share this, or does somebody need to be activated into this? Can they, what's my role in this sort of deal? So I've been tuning into your shows, even though I haven't really, I'm trying to make the time to see more of them all the way through. And I'm trying so hard, but I'm like, oh, I got to go do this. I got to do that. And you're just in the past, well, I'm sure over the years, period, but especially from what I could see in the past, maybe like full 30 days, or ever since the Soulogy Fest.
Right.
Really, when you started back up after that, there is this teaching wisdom frequency coming from you that is immense. It's extraordinarily compassionate and expansive, and you're pulling people into this new level of their, they won't necessarily know it until after the show, but there's this level, yeah, coming from you. Yeah, it's it's so strong. I just want to stop
I
and
don't.
let that ride just right there. I mean, I'm just one person. I'm sure I'm
No,
not the only one picking up on it.
yeah, but well, first of all, I appreciate that. I don't really know what to say. What I can say is my experience. My experience. If I had to describe, if that's what's coming out, then that's what's coming out. But only thing I could say, it is a result, and as the individual goes, so goes a collective. I mean, obviously, most people know the story about Soulogy Fest. It was an incredible, energetic, transformational activation involving so many different dimensions and timelines and species and histories, and there was some codes that were opened up, and I'm sure it happened in other parts of the world. I don't know, but for me as an individual, as a man, going through all this and being just told, go do this. Doesn't matter what anyone says. And then to, end up going to Houston and getting back over here and getting back into doing the shows. When I came, I started to do it, and I had to go on this I had to leave. I just had to go. I just had to leave. And I was being told you're going to be cleaned out. Everything got cleaned out.
Wow.
Every dollar, every ounce of gas, everything. And it was just this seemingly field of chaos. But I knew it wasn't chaos, because chaos is what creation comes from. So when I came in and started doing the shows, I couldn't do it, and I had to leave. And when I left, I said to my friend who was scheduling, I said, I called her, and this was all like instant. It happened within like 45 minutes. I'm bawling my eyes out. I have no idea what the hell's going on. And I said to her, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to come back and I'm not going to do Soulogy anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't even know where that came. It was just, there's a lot more to it that I really can't get into, but it really all has to do with the masculine and the feminine. So I said to her, and again, it was just like channeling. I just said, and if I do come back, I'm gonna, take my role, and I'm gonna be the best balanced masculine, feminine, Trinity energy that I could be. And all through this, so as I started to put these the shows, and just all these women primarily stepping up for the first time, there was a lot of things happening on a personal level with Morgan and I, and it's part of the evolution, and it's all happening so fast. But I would just say that humility, conscious integrity, not that I'm perfect, but I'm just saying, like, this is what I feel like is
there's no
the tools or the plugins that we use to in this new atmosphere that's so fucking foreign and alien, but it's familiar and weird because the shoes aren't dropping and things are becoming clearer. And I love what you said about when you come into something, does someone need to hear this? And you were explaining how these things even can be heard. And a lot of it, I think, has been through old rhythms and, behavioral patterns, we might say wounded, but the information's getting out there. We're putting the old stuff behind us, and we're building a new world, with people like you, because, and I'm going to shut up now, but
Don't.
no, but here's the thing. I said this to, I have a couple of friends. I was here, Sedona, obviously all these energies, and you might call them quirky, right? A lot of people might call them quirky.
I can identify with quirky.
Right. So this is my point. Highly sensitive. Man, my throat chakra is just blowing up. But highly sensitive, had the same stories so many people have. The last 5 shows, whatever. And finally finding their power and their love for themselves. And I said to my friend, in regard to them, I said, you know what? The world is going to start to see them differently now. And I said that to Morgan. She goes, that's me too. And I said to my other friend, she's like, that's me too. And you're saying the same thing, but this is actually what it is. They're going to be looking at these, and a lot of them are going to be women carrying this whole thing. So, but yeah, I really appreciate your perspective, and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to finally be here. Couple shows that you did, you had that link up like, hey, join if you can join. I'm telling you, I was just, there's always so much. And when you said the word quirky, it's like, if you only knew. Oh my gosh, I wish I could just jump on like that, but my energy is too this is ongoing. There's no compartmentalization anymore. It's like always on. But so I don't know, I guess you would think that would mean, well, then you could jump on any time, right? It's like, no, because everything is always happening at the same time, all the time, even with the kids. Like, I had the nerve to homeschool both my kids when we left. There's one down there trying to avoid taking a test right now. You know what I mean? So, like, while this is happening, so, which is great. I'm not complaining, obviously. We make this look a lot easier than it is, as you know, and everybody who's listening is going to know. It is not easy, like it's sounding all rainbows and sunshine, and that's not true. But the more that you just talked about how we're leaving this stuff behind. So the more these activations allow things to drop. That's what they basically do. It's almost like permission. It's like permission. Okay, wait. All right, so I can let that go. That's a short story, right? The short version is obviously longer than that, but yeah, letting it go. And then once you let it go, those denser frequencies sort of, well, first of all, they transmute. It can't really let it go and then it would just recycle, right?
Right.
So we're actually transmuting this, and then we're able to rise. Well, when the frequencies rise and we're connected in, automatically magnetized to other frequencies that are, in proximity, which is how we're able to now see these worlds. We're seeing some of the same stuff again now. You know what I mean? Like we're able to really see this vision. As what the Arcturians were showing me so clearly, which is so hard to describe, and I need to like teach a class on it or make slides or do some stuff that is not in my nature to do, right? But I need to do that. But what's happening is we're closing the gap. So where it felt really heavy, like we talked about pain just a second ago, the weight of the pain, but letting go of the suffering of it, letting go of the attention to it. Well, the weight of the pain, we don't really realize it yet, all of us, like at different levels we do individually, but collectively, just in those of us who are tuned in and like kind of aware of what's going on, we're still not realizing how much more we can bear. It doesn't feel as much like pain as it would have felt like physically in our body and in our emotions 5 years ago, like this type of thing. I'm just throwing out years, but like some time ago, because as the gap is closing, the frequency raises, the proximity, the ratio of what feels really good and what we prefer versus what we don't prefer, that's the gap that's closing.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
I do.
So this pendulum is not swinging so far.
Yeah.
So the pain is not way over here, weighing us down that much. Go ahead, Todd. I'm sorry.
Well, I think, no, that's a great analogy with the pendulum, because like way over here, we're more unconscious. And as it's doing this, we're not, and this is happening quickly. Like we're not taking things personal, as personal, and we're letting go, just letting go, or it's letting go. I don't even know. Like you said, is it just a consequence of the activation itself? I want to ask you, we're already like 30 minutes into this. Can you go like an hour and a half? Can you go another hour?
I think so. Yeah. I might have to text somebody and make sure they turn their test in online, but
well, whatever you got to do. No, this is very powerful. It's a very powerful, it's a very powerful thing. It seems like when things are really rocking and rolling, the last show is always the greatest show we ever had. We're approaching 4,000 shows, and the last show we did yesterday was just blew me away. And this one's already of an energy with more energy in it. So this is how it works. We add frequencies to ever expanding vibration. But I wanted to ask you, I know you channel the Arcturians, your writings are incredible. Can you just tell us, just as a lead in, how did that start? How did that relationship start with Arcturians?
I honestly can't remember how I came to understand that it was indeed going to be the Arcturians. Something just made sense at some point. Okay, so at the very beginning of this whole thing got triggered. And oh my gosh, so see, I'm coming back to your shows, Todd. That's what I'm saying about you. What you're doing is having an impact that you do understand, but like when you sit back in a few years, you're going to be like, I can't believe, like, it's a huge impact. So I can't remember who you were talking to, but you were making the relation to the making it relative, what you were talking about, to 2012. All right. And I was so unaware at this time, but I didn't even realize that's when I actually had my first spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I hadn't even made that connection that it was that year. That's crazy, right? To be doing what I do and not have made that connection. Because even though that happened, I didn't have the pieces put together to the larger part of the picture at that point.
Right.
I just knew something was going on. I was just disconnected from, your garden variety religion. You know what I mean? Like I was very aware that behavior, like interpersonal relationships were very, very, I'm going to use the word distorted. I wouldn't have used distorted back then. I can't remember the word I used, but I knew there was a bunch of mess going on and I didn't fit in the mess. Okay, so you hear this all the time. So this is what was going on. And I kept trying to leave my life. I kept trying to escape it somehow. And, it just kept boomeranging me back like a rubber band. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have enough pieces yet. So fast forward, and I mean, a few years later, like maybe 2018. Okay, so years later now, I had been boomeranging. I had been trying to make my great escape at that point, that many years. I've gone and gotten a whole nother degree, Todd. Like, like I've got to help people. I've got to figure out. So it ended up being this psychology degree that I do have.
Okay.
But even then, even within the psychology, the realm of classical education, like higher education, it didn't fit because the people who were, and it's not their fault. This isn't to like make some case against people who were psychologists. This is not what it's about. It's just that now I understand, and even then to some degree I understood, the frequencies, the vibration was too low. They didn't have the right quantum information literally in the field, okay, no pun intended, that they were in, right? To actually hold that heart. They didn't have the proper heart frequencies, the proper connections to really help the people they were trying to help. Right. So there's a lot of mess going on. And I was in the field of research. I was in the research part of psychology. And so we were dealing with groups, like people who were going through massive depression, hunger, and people who were supposed to be helping them in the groups were more concerned about career and dissertations and other mess, not feeding people at the table. It was crazy stuff. And so, yes, this is the kind of thing that these were the little like wake ups. Like you think you're going to do what you're supposed to do in the regular world. You see what I'm saying? Like little light bulbs were like, wait, so I can't even really properly help people in this field. Like what is, it didn't make any sense. So, all right, so bunch of mess, we can't go through all the details, right? So fast forward, I run into this light language. I don't know why. I had been running across Abraham Hicks videos on YouTube. I had discovered YouTube while I was getting the degree, and it was slowly walking me out through the frequencies. I didn't understand consciously what that meant, okay? That verbiage wasn't being used as far as what I was listening to. It might have been being used, but what I was listening to didn't have that verbiage yet. But the light language, boom. And I heard light language through a starseed who was connected to an Arcturian being. Okay. And then, so walking into this, then I began to work with people who worked with Arcturians. And then I had a message from, at the time, a very close, let's use the word colleague. That seems so weird and foreign to me now, but at the time I would have said like peer or colleague or something like that. Who said, I'm getting messages that maybe you're supposed to actually be giving the messages. And it was so crazy. So I was actually learning how to lucid dream and had my Arcturian me come to me in a waking dream, basically. So these are the sorts of things that started to happen to me. I wanted to know more about what was going on, Todd. So I got tarot cards. I got these other ways of figuring out sight beyond sight, how to tune in, stuff that people go through, right? All these little things were happening. And then I don't remember the precise day when I just decided. The Arcturians really just kind of sat me down and started teaching me how to channel. I heard like a YouTube video where somebody said, you know what? If you want to talk to a group of beings, just sit, organize a meeting with them and ask them to show up to you. And I did this several days. I would go and I would, meditate, and I followed these instructions and they came to me, but it didn't even take long.
Wow.
The first things they were telling me is, you need to remember who you are. And I kept going, but I want to know what's going on with the world. I was asking real questions like, what should I be doing? What's happening in the world tomorrow? When is this thing happening? I was hearing about all these events that were going to happen and the event, right? And that's what people wanted to know. And the Arcturians were like, no, you need to remember who you are. You need to remember who you are. You have a job to do. Todd, they were telling me. So then I was like, wait, what? I can't be doing who, me? No, I don't do that. I don't do that. I raise children and sing, like, and I have a psychology. Like, I do this other thing. I don't do that.
Was it I mean, it sounds like you flowed right into it. Was it when you first like made the contact where you're like, holy shit, this is going down?
Yes. And it wasn't only with them. I was like contacting other people's energy early on too. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize that that's what I was feeling all in my heart space. Okay. In my field it's like pinpoints, like electricity. I was feeling all that very early on. And it's only been maybe 3 years now. I really have become solidly certain what's what. Maybe like 3 years ago, and then it becomes stronger all the time. Well, you know how that is. It still shifts all the time. But yeah, so yeah, and it's kind of crazy that when you asked me that question, I just went, when did
well, there's no linear. I mean, it's just interesting, some of these stories. And then, but like, to me, like, I know that, like, for myself, when it was just me, and even things I've experienced with Morgan, you just go, holy shit, this is actually going down. This is actually happening.
It's happening.
So you spent a lot of time, which I think we all would have, asking them what the hell's going on here. And I have heard this from many people over the years. This is about you. You need to remember who you are, right? And so I guess you've been doing this with them for how long? Like, is it a year or two? Or
oh gosh, with the Arcturians right away, that's just how it started. It's like it just blew up right away. So so 4, almost 5 years now. I mean, listen, I can't count. It's 2022.
Were you putting your stuff out 5 years ago?
I started with small activations because the messages they gave me would come to me, and they would be giving me words I never used before, Todd. They would be giving me like some people that I would share with would be like, this is very technical, or what is this exactly? And so I just would put out these short activations of a minimized, not really a version, but part of what they told me. Part of what a guide told me. Oh my gosh, Todd, so that's another thing I want to tell you about, because a lot of people might be able to use this, or maybe they can relate to. Yeah, I'm even getting it. Somebody already got excited. I've been feeling so much stuff in my heart. All sorts of things. And I'm so happy to feel it because, and it's one of these things that we can't get too deep into, but with some of these initiations, I've had to put a little bit of a wall up that I didn't want to put up to protect, because some stuff has been going on. And so it's almost, I do want to use the phrase like life or death. I do want to use, and I don't mean to put fear energy into the space here. But it is an awareness, not to be afraid of that, but that things are going on. There was a message that just came out maybe a couple days ago, about the intense healing that we're now able to do. This is why that came in, because people are healing themselves out of things now that we would have thought was impossible. Even after, with all of our awarenesses, even with all of that, the level of healing that we can now do. I mean, Todd, I will say this one thing, and it's just that, and I'm just going to let you do with it, but it's a wonderful thing. I literally one night laid in bed and put around myself, it's not really crystal, but it's like, it was a shell of the light of the creator goddess energy. So the feminine aspect of God, the creator goddess. And I'm with her all the time. Oh my, she's with me so heavily anyway. And through this, it was like light was pouring through my body and healing up so much stuff. It was unbelievable. There's so much that I could tell you that you actually, because you've been through so much, it may not surprise you, but it would surprise a lot of people. The things that on other levels, what we are able to do. I had to come in touch with so many warrior aspects.
Yeah.
And I understand the need for not having the extreme polarization. So this is not to advocate or bring in those frequencies again or read, because some of that's happening. Some of that's happening where humans actually are very used to having a certain degree of polarity, and they're kind of bringing in these other stories back that are already healed through, and then we got to read. And that's a normal, it's part of the human experience. So it's not anything to be upset about or beat ourselves up about. It's just all part of it. But that's not what is being said right here. But the warrior aspect in part had to come, well, aspects, plural. Okay, these are few different experiences over the summer that I cannot even believe have happened. But I had to be made aware of certain things that I thought prior to it, I'm like, and I honored it all. Like this soul group does that. This soul group does that, right? This soul group does that. I do this, this is my role. Oh no, honey, you do all of this. You have to do all of this, because if you don't understand all of this, you cannot activate, heal, be the umbrella that you have to be for those who are now coming into that frequency. But what had to occur to bring me to that state boggles the mind. It's like mind blowing. It is. It's mind blowing. I don't even know what I was going to say before I got into all that.
I think this is what I'm picking up. I guess I'm a bit of a translator, and you are very ET, and I'm getting it all, and then to kind of bring it to the layman's terms. But like what you're describing to me is an excellent description of the experience, because it's very much, even though we know it's all inside of us, it's very much out here, right? And like the way you said, you have to, exactly. So the way I feel it, or the way I can relate to it, is during this time and other times, but during this time in particular, even going back to last year when I got COVID and the whole thing with Franco happened, there was a whole initiation of what some people might say are dark beings, right? Now we're talking energy here, and these are all metaphors. This is how we experience it. But my understanding, and really going back 10 years, and then getting another dose in 2016, and then now this year, which is basically, I can only speak from my first person. I have to go in and become all those things, even those things that from my programming I might detest or think I'm not. So the time with these dark beings, as somebody might construe them, have been the biggest activations I've ever had.
Wow.
And like the thing with the COVID thing, it was a 2 or 3 day thing. They just kept getting uglier, and you know what I mean? They were just dark, but they weren't. They all come from the same place. That's what I've been told, and so that's what I pick up from you. Like that's, we are universal seeds, and maybe that's why so many like you that get these types of messages are told this is not about what the hell's going on. This is about you, and you are all of these things. And I firmly believe that the earth is the most universally planted planet. And we have done the work, and we are now coming into that universal healing band of frequencies. And we're going to be able to go out all through the multiverses and do some good.
Yeah. We'll be able to recognize it on a different level here pretty soon. I know all of this is subject to change. I mean, even as we speak it, that's why predictive stuff now is just really difficult to do, because then we're so powerful now. If we don't want that result, we're going to go on in there and shift it. So it's like, but as per the current energy, I'll say it that way, we're going to experience a lot more in our lifetime than we really think, but it won't be. But even then, like I'll just say from my individual human, but I'm getting that it's pretty much collective, but I'll just take responsibility. I still want it now, right? Like
Me
we
too.
real, yeah, we want to see this now, but but it is coming, but that's so hard to hear that like
It is.
coming.
I think you're right. The whole thing with the predictions now, like I saw a couple today, and they're pretty big platforms. People would know them, and I was like, that just doesn't stick anymore. Like it's like a carrot on a stick. And then the other thing
Okay, yeah,
the
yeah.
other thing that I think that's falling too is hey man, this is going on in the world, and that's going on in the world, and that's not working either. Like you see the
Because
clickbait platforms are not pulling what they used to.
yeah,
There's something coming up in a very subtle way. And I think you and those like you, the women that have been coming on the show, represent that energy. It's like I saw a video of these lions that had been in captivity, like in a
okay.
zoo for like, I don't even know, like 10 years, but whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
And they opened the cage and let them come out.
Yeah.
And the way they came out was like, just like baby steps, like they were, and here
Wow.
they are, these powerful, powerful creatures
Hmm.
in mass. And it was just, that's what it reminds me of. Like it's just
Yeah.
this soft, powerful, pink.
Compassionate,
Yeah,
compassionate.
yeah,
It's the heart frequency. That's
yeah,
just what it is. And that's part of what's happening too with why that whole, you have to remember who you are, because once you hold that heart frequency, you need to keep holding the heart frequency and keep moving, like keep
mm,
moving,
mm,
not physically, but energetically. We're always reaching, we're always going to the next place, which it can be said, well, that's not a way to be, but actually it's beautiful because there's no end. It would
right,
be not so
right,
beautiful, I guess, if we hit some ceiling and then we were done. Yeah, that's not going to happen. We're just
right.
going to keep doing this. And the stuff about like the clickbait, when you talked about that, I mean, it definitely serves a purpose because it will bring people in who don't know yet, and maybe they
That's
need
true.
that, right, exactly. And then once they get in the frequencies, though,
Right.
we will continue to pull each other in. Once they reach a certain spectrum, they're past that anyway, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're
And
right.
so, yeah, no, but it's not to discount what you
No,
said,
no,
because
no, but you're right, because the energy exchange, I don't think a lot of people realize, and it kind of coincided with 2012. Uh, the internet exploded, and so here we are having more visible audio, frequencies, right? 5 sensory frequencies, but the energy itself is moving, right? And,
yeah,
I think for the first time in the last 10 years, we started to learn at a much faster rate, like we do when we're kids. Because, when you're a
oh
kid, you
yeah.
learn at a very fast rate. And then as you get to about 18 or 20, you start to go down like this, right? Because there's
Mhm.
just not enough stimulation. But I think
And
that's a big
conditioning
factor.
too.
Yeah, the conditioning, the
Yeah,
habits, but like you're right. Uh, these platforms woke me up. The 9/11 stuff, it all woke me up. It was part of
yeah.
the wake up experience. But I think you're right.
Mhm.
What's happening is you've got this soul tribe does this, the soul tribe does that, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And the information and the code exchange moves so much quicker now, and even quicker
Yeah.
every day. It's like
Yeah.
bizarre.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. And and I'm seeing other people, so many other people do it too. And I'm like, oh, yes, yes, yes. And that's so nerdy and goofy to be, but it's all right. I mean, I admit it. I'm a dork. Like I definitely look for people who are also picking up on, like, they're saying the same thing as them.
Right,
Let's bring
right.
them together. It's because that's sort of like it's not sort of, actually, that is definitely where we're going, but even beyond that. But I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, with the whole bringing people into frequency and continuing into expansion. Yeah, it is all going to blend together.
Yeah,
Right now, we need a little bit of, what can we call it? Like a specialty, like we have specialties, and we
yeah,
come in a certain way for a specific reason, and all of that. But it's amazing just to be able to relate, like the astrologer to the person who came in clairvoyant and doesn't really know anything about galactics, to the person
right.
who, it's like, but it's all, I don't know, it all blends together for me. It all blends together, I think, for a lot of us.
Well, it's
actually.
that, I think it's that truth frequency. I remember getting a message or an email from a lady, and she was like, I think she was like, had no galactic stuff going on at all, but she was like into fairies and she'd been seeing them since she was
Yeah.
kids. And she said, I found my home, I'm watching your show. It just popped up, and this lady's talking about all of her experience with galactics. And so the stories weren't the same, but the energy was the same.
It's still
Like,
matched.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's, you know what I mean? So like she
Mhm.
actually started watching because of the stories people were telling. And it wasn't about the literal aspect of the story. It was about these things that we never talk about and
Mhm.
she'd never talked about, and then she
Mhm.
came on the show.
And it comes full circle too. Okay, so when was this? Around the time, we didn't even get to all this, Todd. Oh my goodness. My kids,
Go.
speaking of
Just,
kids, I
yeah.
don't even know how much time we have. I'm bad at this.
We got another 40 minutes,
Oh, there
or
we
50.
go. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We started this journey seeing like balls of light. It was when you're asking me, so when did all this start? Did you tiptoe into it? It was like tiptoe, 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 right? And I
Mhm.
don't know anything about galactics or any of that. To find out about galactics, also your guides are coming to you and you're feeling each of them individually. It was like a boardroom. It was like I would sit at my kitchen table in Wisconsin and
Oh
I,
my
because
God.
my, yeah, because my human needed to like
Right.
project the consciousness somewhere and relate to it, and that's all it was. So I needed a location to look at, I guess, or feel. And then of course the energy responds to that, and that's where they sit from now on, right? So it'd be like a boardroom of guides, and then it would be, I could see like a cluster, a group of these Arcturians, and my kids started to see the fairies
Holy
who would congregate in front of my front door. Like there's this big tree in front of our house there. Okay, I forget which type of tree. And just little points of light. They would just congregate. My kid played soccer back then. He was a little guy. He was like 5'6". I don't, how old was he then? He might have been pushing 7, okay, the great age of 7 or something. And he'd be playing for Parks and Rec. And there they would be on the field. Okay, they would just come out of nowhere where we've never seen all this stuff before. And elementals would show up, which they would look like, if you aren't paying attention, it would look like a butterfly or something like that. But no, my oldest had elementals show up. They really love him. Okay, he's
really?
very angelic and obviously has other roots as well. His name, and I had no idea. I know, Todd, it's a lot. I know
No, I
his,
just got blown up.
yeah,
I just got like, I mean, it just went, wow.
listen
Keep
to
going.
this. My oldest son's name is Orion.
Okay.
18 years ago, I had no idea what was going on. There is definitely, and that could trigger some people who, because I know Orion beings, there's a history there,
Right.
and we also know they're not all the same, just like anything else.
Right.
So he was actually one of his lives, the most, if you want to look at it in terms of linear time, okay,
Okay.
which is difficult to do, but his most recent other life was an angel. He's an angelic being, an angel in the system of Orion or for other Orion beings, okay, for other groups of Orion beings. And so he understands polarity dynamics very, very well. He's very tuned into both and understands how to heal.
Wow.
And these elementals were coming to him. And he was in the basement one day. In Wisconsin, you got to have your basements, right? With the water
Mm.
heater, it has all the stuff. It's a little dank, but it's done. Okay, so he's in our basement, doing something, playing video games with people or something. And he comes upstairs. He's like, "Mom, this thing won't leave me alone. It just came out of nowhere." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Is it a moth? I'm looking for the moth. You know what I'm saying?" No, and it popped up. I saw it and it blinked out again. It popped up and then it blinked out. Okay, like
Wow.
blinked into another dimension. And he's like, that thing popped out of nowhere. And I explained to him about elementals because we hadn't talked about. I mean, at the time he might have been 15. He's a little younger, maybe 14. But yeah, and so that was our first introduction to, yeah, so we have soul family that are elementals, or you do, and they're definitely coming for you. Like they're like, hey, they're showing up for you. They show up for him on sporting fields. Like when he would
My
go see his
God.
brother play, they'd show up. And to the point where even other people began to see it. They were like, wait, where did that thing come from? Yeah. And so now I'm starting to see, not recently, but after this last big shift that we had, the fairies came back a little bit. I also became aware of Elven soul family, who now I have an elvish spirit guide, which I knew about elves, but I didn't know that you could, I don't know why I didn't make the connection, right? That makes no sense. Of course, you could have a guide who's an elf then, And so yeah, that came back big. What else was it? A few other things. It'll come to me, but that one really stood out because that was so new to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your daily life, I mean, is this, you were talking about at the top of the show, but I mean, you're full court press every day, it seems like.
It's always like, even when I'm not trying to tune in, it's tuning in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm always activating, and because of a transition that I'm now realizing is a direct parallel, though. They're getting me straight, though. It's somewhat of a parallel to the collective, where I'm transitioning, and they want me to be really careful here. Of course, they're connected to me. So I want to be clear to say that I do realize that my guides are representative of me, but also a part of me, and they're coming through my consciousness. And there's always there's a strong relationship there. So it's going to come through, not necessarily a big filter, but they're connected to me, So somebody else's interpretation could vary a little and it would still be true. It would be okay. But yeah, so this transition that I've been going through, I've been picking up on a lot of other people going through it, and they've been straight up saying it too, picking up on it, and then they're saying it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
kind of like, do you want to go on Zoom?
I was like, you are tuning in. Todd is officially psychic right now. But we're doing a whole lot of communicating.
Right.
I don't know if Morgan told you this, but I had written her a message, and I know I'm all over the place. We were talking about something. I love Morgan. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Anyway,
me too.
I'd written her a message about coming. She'd asked me, did I want to come on your show?
Okay.
And I was like, yes, but I had to be very, very reserved with my energy. I was getting drained. But see, Todd, I was learning all this stuff about a personal thing that had been going on that I had not known about. They're really trying to shut me up right now. I can't talk. They're like, whoa, everything went silent in my heart area. They're like, shut it. But yeah, so something, and I will eventually definitely talk about it, but just not yet. But so that's the only reason that I couldn't come right away.
Yeah.
And yeah, right. So, and it's all good, but so in that message, I told her that she, in a group of women who I instantly recognized, I recognized their energy. Like it felt very familiar. It felt like love. It felt like protection. It felt like, and that being said, no one else is responsible to protect another person.
Right.
That being said, we do have components of ourselves that, when given permission, which I clearly had given permission, or they wouldn't have been able to, I wouldn't have felt them that way, to, have this sort of relationship on other levels, is what I'm saying. So clearly, but she felt into me, Morgan, on these other levels, and they came to me and they guided me and consoled me through this very grievous process that was happening. It was the first time something like that had happened. Wow. And I have never met Morgan. I've never met her. We've never had a conversation. And that did not matter. And it doesn't with me. Like, I conversate with y'all constantly. You don't even understand. We've already done this interview. See what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you do know. I know it.
Yeah. And I was I was actually writing her this morning, and I told her, because by the time I got here, which was like a whole hour, I guess an hour linearly, but it seemed like 2 weeks. I drive up through the canyon and I'm just getting blasted.
Yeah.
And I just kept feeling things lift, lift and lift. I thought, wow, this is what's going on here. Because I'm like you, I'm told that it's happening. Game on. but just take
Okay.
baby steps through this month, and then see how December looks. My feeling is it'll open up a little bit for me, but
Okay.
yeah, this whole thing with the communication and these, I mean, we have people contact us almost every 2-3 days. You know, you were in our dreams, you delivered me a crystal, or just different things individually and together. And yeah, and when this whole shift storm started, I got called to Sedona. It's interesting. I don't know when this happened to you, but this would have been the latter part of June. There was a council of women that came to me, and she was one, and Judith Kuzel, and there were some others I recognized.
Wow.
And they came in twice, and that was kind of how it started. And
okay.
yeah, and it was like a real masculine kind of direction. Like, go do it. We're with you. But it was the feminine. It was just this, you know, this love that contained everything from Cali to the Glinda, the Good Witch of the North. It was just like,
right.
you know, and it was amazing. But I feel like that it was, there was like a masculine anchoring that I was part of the team. I don't know. And then to hear your story, that feels resonant too, like the inverses, right? Because you can't have him, like when she came out a few years ago, and you saw it all the time. It was always the divine feminine, mother goddess has landed. That created a pressure on the male and the masculine. And so as he came out, there was a lot of, Maya came on Monday, and she's like you, like Morgan, and she said, in her great accent, she's
I
like,
remember some of her, I remember some of your interview with her. Oh, I loved it. I love
isn't
her
she?
energy.
Yeah. And she said the way she says it too, like the feminine is going into the depths now. They're going to be doing some, you know, and I think what it is like residual, and the men, the masculine do it too. I mean, it's just what I think there's been this anchoring of the masculine. And now, as Morgan says, you know, and some other people have written similar things, which is now all three pieces of the Trinity are learning to work together. And I think that's kind of what you're describing, and what you're, the energy of what you're bringing in is like, this shit's going down. It's happening. You can't even really talk about it because it's moving like boom, 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 boom. And don't worry about the stories because they're going away anyway. You know, they're not going with us.
We're shifting. That's the thing. Yeah, oh my gosh, we're so powerful. Like, listen to what we just said even. I mean, I'm replaying what's just been said for the past 5 minutes, and it's like, wow, yeah, that really happened. So that happened to him too. So we're coming to each other in real time, though, out of our body on another plane. But then the human now is consciously engaging because enough of the distortion is gone. So there's not that distortion clouding the experience of doubt. So we're consciously engaging this. It's mind-blowing. I just want to like acknowledge the huge factor there. Just because I mean, we're so used to it. It's like, oh, this is happening. This is huge. This is huge.
Well, every encounter is becoming more and more of a medium psychic experience. And see, because I think that's one reason why it never really took hold, because of the you know, the way we constructed this incredible place, because we didn't believe each other. You know what I mean?
We had to be separate. We had to be divisive. We had to have something to rail against, and yada yada. Yeah.
And
which
to think
that's natural, but that's gone. We're leaving that now.
Exactly. And to think that of all the things in our lives, religion, politics, family, work, you know, whatever, it's the weirdest thing from the human perspective that's going to pull us together. It's the multidimensionality, which is so many things that we're all going, hey, because that's what I hear. That's what we hear. That's the messages and the emails that we get and the comments we get. The primary one is, I thought I was alone. I didn't realize there were other people. And I think this number is expanding dramatically, because it doesn't matter what your life experience has been up to this point. You can get rocked, just like all of us, in a heartbeat. And the next thing you know, you're channeling the Arcturians.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Yep. Exactly. And I'm glad you said that because I wanted to mention this, but if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, it doesn't, right? But it came up. So yeah, I definitely picked up on. There's another group of these beautiful human beings who are coming. I'm going to call it coming online, because I don't know. That could mean a couple different things. I don't know if they're coming out, but what
Right.
I'm getting actually is that they're going to be afraid to speak it. And the reason why this needs to be said is so that we're in our awareness that when you feel the subtle shift, and this won't affect, so all of us won't obviously see this up close. Like for me personally, I'm very separated. Not in the evil, not like, ooh, I don't want to be
Mm,
around, people who are more dense, or that's not it. It's just
I
I
don't
can't
do
hold
people.
enough of the
I don't do people.
I can't hold enough of the heart frequency to literally do my job. That's
Yeah.
basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And I've had to make extreme I mean, they bring it to me, the word they use is sacrifices, which I wouldn't have even thought of it that way. But I guess if you look at it, you are kind of sacrificing this familiar thing in order to grow into this new thing.
Right.
And until I could really look at it like that, it was harder to let it go. Like you do have to sacrifice this old situation. And then you open your eyes to what it was, and you can even clear out more of that energy, by
Right.
the way.
Right.
So that's for some people that, yeah, okay, that's definitely needing to be said too for some who are going to even listen right now and come even more online to that. There's probably a corridor to some stuff that they might not have realized still was keeping them in slightly denser energy than they prefer. But there's no right or wrong. It's fine. Like it's all fine. But
Yeah.
there's an activation there. There's some kind of realization there. But what was the point of that? I hate when that happens. And then like now I got to remember where I
Happens
was
to me all
going.
the time. Don't worry about it.
I'm a good
um,
company.
but yeah,
Okay.
and another, I think, 'cause these things are very real and they're happening very recently, if not even like yesterday or whatever. I mean, this stuff it's mind blowing. And one of the things
Mhm.
too, you mentioned this earlier, and I guess to restate it, which is you were talking about the energy, I think maybe in the body or something. We don't really release it, we transmute it, we transform it.
Especially if we're
And
conscious about it. Mhm.
right, and I think that's happening as well with all of our experience. Like people talked about boundaries for a long, long time, and they're very necessary to find out who you are, but they're not going to be here. So like
Yeah.
we
Not
don't
the
have
same
to
way.
go play in another playground and start over. We can actually do what's there with us now. And I know,
Yeah.
family and all that can be kind of complicated, but that I feel
Yeah.
that. I feel like in resonance and in truth, collaboration and co-creation
Yeah.
would be another way to put it.
Yeah.
Don't push it, don't force it, just let it happen, right?
That's
You
right.
know,
And there's this group that I've been told, and I felt a little bit, but then I was just straight up told that they're coming. I'm going to say coming online, but I feel like that's probably too far because they're not going to be like even as aware as I was, or willing to say something. They won't be really willing to talk right away,
okay, I
but
got you.
they're going to be reaching. They're going to be like watching people like you or people like.
Okay,
So for people listening, yeah, there's going to be people watching in a bigger way than they have been. They're very afraid to say something because there's like, okay, so the closer we get, like, okay, remember that bottleneck where we're sort of, as we rise in frequency, the pendulum's swinging a shorter distance.
right, right.
Okay, that sort of thing. So, but then the opposing force, right? We'll just call it that. It doesn't, and actually, that energy actually wants to let go, by the way. It's ready to shift. Everything's ready to shift. Just humans who mostly aren't really awake to a lot of this, or they might be awake in a different way, but they don't have a lot of their heart online.
Right.
So they don't have higher heart frequencies at the ready, and they're not nurturing them intentionally. And in fact, when they feel it come in, they kind of shy away from it. That's okay. That's happening too. Nothing to be worried about or afraid of, but they are very familiar with this other, which you have called it dark energy, rightfully so. We think of it like a darker sort of energy.
Right.
And so because of that familiar sort of safety
Right.
behaving, utilizing that energy, pulling it back in, even though it's trying to. I mean, I was told this summer, am I supposed to say this? All right, so this summer, a wolf came to me in a dream, okay? Well, kind of a dream, like a waking dream. It was near the end of, I was about to wake up. Well, people know what I'm saying. So it's not quite a lucid dream, but it's like when you wake up and you realize you were supposed to remember all of that, and also it was actually happening. Okay, it's one of these situations. And he was like a grandfather energy. And the wolf was explaining these things to me, that the energy can only be what it is. Okay, but certain people are pulling it back in. Once they pull the energy in, it operates the way it knows to operate. Okay, so we have to completely let it, because once it stops, and it's a process, it will. It's going to eventually, because the heart frequency is extremely powerful. And so it's going to, this other stuff's going to tire itself out. The heart energy is not going anywhere. It's just building. It's all going to be fine. And this other energy is going to end up in the place it's supposed to end up once people stop using it down here at this other level.
Right. That's right.
So, yeah. So that's another way to think of it.
Yeah, like begets like. Yeah, and you said something too just a second ago. I just want to go back to it. So I forgot. No, I forgot.
Oh, sorry.
No, you were talking. Oh, yeah, I was going to say this. So over the years, you hear a lot about first wave and second, and this different other things. I like the way that sounds, what you said. I've heard, there's going to be a bunch of walk-ins and all these different things, but the way you explain that to me makes sense. That there would be a level of consciousness that would kick in. It's not everybody's going to wake up and go, oh, hey, wow, we were asleep. But there's like say a significant portion of the population is going to have this wider consciousness, and they wouldn't talk about it. They're still too far, you know what I mean? They're just getting there. And again, it's not linear, and that's one reason why I like the show, is because people can talk about what happened to them 8 years ago, and it can be happening to somebody right now, right?
Yep.
And so I really see where that resonates with me. Like people are going, and I've even heard practitioners talking about this on the show since we got started back a few weeks, like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And they're saying, wow, I'm getting, or I even see posts that I'm getting people that have never, looked into this stuff. I'm getting new clients. I'm getting people that just woke up, or I've heard other people saying on the show, my family's asking questions. They're not like coming over going, hey, let's get some crystals, but they're like going, hey, how does that work? Or what's that about? So,
a lot of realizations are happening in people's dreams too, where they didn't used to remember their dreams, stuff like that. And I'm getting full on confirmation, because even in my personal life, I've seen it. Like all of a sudden somebody flipped and I'm like, yo, what's going on? I'm asking my guides, like, what is this? And they're like, yeah, they got a little something happening, or I'll even know beforehand, and then I'll get the call. Something like, stuff like that. Like I'll be alerted, like you're about to get, somebody's going to shift, and somebody's going to apologize, or somebody's going to do something that they would never do, and this is why. And then boom, the call comes in, or the thing happens, and the person's completely different. This is happening.
Yeah. And I think that if you know what, for me, in fact, I was talking to Morgan yesterday, and I said, if there is a solar flash, if there's such thing, it's this week. Like that's what it feels like to me. It feels like
it's insane energy.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Todd, I don't know about you, but I'm oscillating in between needing to sleep for 50 hours. Like I'm up like the Energizer Bunny. Like, I don't need, like right now it's crazy, right? But 2 days ago, I couldn't stay awake. I was like, what is going on? I can't even stay awake right now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
insane. It's crazy.
well, yeah, like the ninth, was it I don't even know the dates now. I guess it was the ninth or the eighth, or I get confused.
Me
But
too.
man, she wrote about part of the session that we had, and but right before all that was, I was still at the studio, and I went to the car, and I couldn't start the car for 20 minutes. Like I didn't know I could feel something was happening,
Uh-huh.
and the timeline part of it I could feel. But man, I went to the car. I thought I was going to die. I mean,
Oh my
like my
God.
heart started pounding. I got this lump in my throat, and it was like,
Mhm.
it was crazy.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
was, I guess, like the energy of that time was coming in or something. I don't really know,
How did
but
it resolve itself? Do you just have to sit and like let it
I just
pass?
kept telling myself that I said, well, what is this? Is this one? I mean, is this something going on here? And I wasn't freaking out. I was just like, I just sat with it, really. Ultimately, I just sat with it and breathed, put the windows down, put the air conditioner on my face. I mean, it was pretty intense.
Todd, I gotta tell you, okay, and I'm getting the go ahead to say this, but
Mm,
without a lot of details, one night I was sleeping. It was the night I told you I put the chrysalis, that's the word, thank you, that I was looking for,
chrysalis. Okay.
of light from the goddess around me. It was on, you know what it reminded me of? Like the med beds. It
Okay.
reminded me of, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But she put it around me and I had to pull her energy. It was my job to just breathe in, so to speak. I had to be part of this. Okay, but this is the part I want to tell you about. That night, I already felt all the stuff happening that I'm not going to get into. It's too much. It is. I only made to freak out. And there were two, okay, I heard like a whoo, whoo, whoo. Okay. And I thought, now, I got two kids. They're both boys. And yes, they do stuff. Okay. They're
Hmm.
very funny. My house is hilarious in the first place. Like, but my
Hmm.
children are the actual adults. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, and also bigger than me. But I I thought, because apparently I have no spatial reasoning, right? Like, where's this coming from? I don't know. So I'm sitting up in bed a little bit. I really didn't feel well. And I thought it was coming from down the hall, like behind me, but it was actually coming out of my own window. And I had just read, or something had been directing me toward owls. You know how you just
Right.
run across stuff and
Right.
it's like signs and you know it's a sign, but you don't know what it means. Coming from other people, like something they wrote or whatever, okay? Other clairvoyants, things like that. But I heard this and I thought, what are they doing? What is happening down the hall? It is late. It's like midnight or something, okay? But no, I asked them, like, no, it's not them. I checked, no, ooh, ooh, it's coming out of my window. And then a second owl. And now I could tell where it was coming from. So the second owl was on the other. I have two windows, okay?
Right. Wow.
There's one owl, ooh. Then the second owl was like, ooh, ooh. It was very rhythmic,
Right.
Todd, very rhythmic.
That's
They were like, ooh, 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 ooh. And this stuff was happening. And I knew to pull in the chrysalis, okay? I asked, this was all conscious, the goddess, to send her light around me. And that's the visual that was given to me that I knew was what was happening. I know, I'm saying it in a crazy way, but
no, I got you. There's reasons for all this.
right, yeah, yeah. So, and that's what was happening. And the owls were alerting me.
Right.
They were protecting me. They woke me up on purpose so that I could consciously do this thing, so that
Wow.
I would survive, so that I would be okay and know to pull this in.
Wow.
Yes.
That's wild. And that thing, the chrysalis thing, right? And I always mention these things because I know there's got to be some kind of relation, otherwise it wouldn't
Okay.
come up.
Okay.
So I was here in late July before I left for Arkansas, and I
Okay.
had this whole thing going on with the whole thing was engineered by the mother goddess, getting me over here. There's all kinds of stuff that happened, again, not to get into all the details.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to the parking lot next door, I talked about this a couple of times. It culminated with this whole merging with the dark feminine. And the mother goddess came
Mm-hmm.
in. She said, this is the part of me that I don't even know. This is my holy darkness. This is the womb. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
standing in this dirt parking lot by myself, and it's the, middle of the night, whatever. And then she presented herself, and it was ferocious, and it was just all these things,
Wow.
right? But
Yeah.
I was in this thing that you're talking about.
Wow.
I kind of described it before as like those luges that they use in the Olympics,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you're right,
Yeah.
but totally encased, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a pearly, rainbowish white, like
Stop. Yeah. You
yeah,
just,
it
it's the
was like
same.
yeah, I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh.
I just know I didn't ask for it. It just appeared,
Mm-hmm.
and it just basically, because what was happening was she was coming at me with anything and everything,
Okay.
right? So I could stand in unconditional love. So
Okay.
that seemed to be like the field of that, and I
Yeah.
was able to do that,
Yeah.
and then everything was, but yeah, it was weird because I kept looking at it going, what the
Wow.
hell is that?
Oh my gosh. No, but when I said same, I meant color wise, the color. It was
Yeah.
like a white, like when you said pearly, like something like
Yeah,
very
it had like,
luminescent.
yeah, it had like a rainbowy thing in it going on,
Okay.
like, yeah, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, these things I find that, you just mention them because I mean, and so much of the code that's being exchanged, it's not the words. It's not the
Yeah.
words, it's the
Yeah.
energy. Like your
Mm-hmm.
energy is very much like that. That's why I can relate to it, because to me,
Yeah.
you're not all over the place. To me, this is how we are. This is actually how we are.
You
Um,
may be one of the few people who do not think that I'm all over the place.
I go through it. I go through it, and I stop judging it. Sometimes
Mhm.
I'm, one way, and sometimes I'm the other. But I can very easily go
Mhm.
into like a multi-stream thing and pull it all back together most of the time. but, but
Yeah.
really, it is just it's our heart. Like you talk about it. Sandra Walter talks about it. The heart frequency.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
that's what's taken over. It's superseding everything. So.
Yeah.
And I guess,
Wow.
yeah, well, here's another strange thing too. So Morgan had said, I think she did a post with a drawing. It was this pink explosion, like atomic bomb, pink explosion. She goes, I don't know what it means,
Oh,
but
yeah, no, I
uh,
saw that. I
so
saw
that
that.
so that night, I go in here to make music with Ty, do our sound healing stuff that we put
Yeah.
out. And he has always these backgrounds, right? He usually
Yeah.
changes them one after the other, one after the other, but that night he had this pink this pink cloud of just, it was just the same thing. It was that magenta pink, and it was just flowing the whole time. I didn't even
Oh my
realize it until
God.
I watched the thing, because I can't see it on the green screen. But yeah, so
There's
the reason
something
I'm
with
bringing
that.
that up is because it seems like after all this time, uh that whatever, well, the suppressed energy, the imbalance, the minority energy, the mother's energy, feminine, whatever you want to call it, has
Mhm.
fully
Engaged.
permeated us all now, every man,
Yeah.
woman, child. And it was like, who was it? Was it Maya? Maya, I think it was Maya. She said, I think it was her, I hope it was. She said, and she spoke like you. She was speaking like literal stuff. She was speaking like metaphorically. And she said,
Mhm.
basically, that what's going to happen is when the mother has all of her power back, what she was describing was like a supersonic cosmic orgasm. Because she
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
because when this power, when this power is released, birthed
Mhm.
from her,
Uh-huh.
because she's safe, because everything's right,
Mhm.
nothing on the earth can contend with it. And I feel like that's
Totally.
what's going on.
No, and another thing that's going on, and I can't remember, I wasn't able to watch the full interview with Maya either. I just saw little snippets. I almost feel like I remember that too. But I've been calling Gaia Earth Mother lately. She's been coming to me that way. I know this doesn't matter, but I'm just going to say Earth Mother. And then who knows what it's going to be next month, right? I mean, I feel like this is how fast all of these things go.
Right.
But Earth Mother has been coming to me very strongly. Now, I always grounded. As soon as I learned that it was a good thing to ground and connect, and then that was another way that I was able to more easily bring the Arcturians in at the beginning, because I
Mm,
was more embodying them. And Daniel Scranton was the one who sort of confirmed for me. I had like a session with him, and I wasn't sure. I was already channeling them,
right.
but I was like, but I need to know, is this like, am I doing this? Is this actually, you know what I'm saying? And so he confirmed for me ways to fully bring them in so that the full, I'm going to call it trance channeling. I don't know if I get the terms right all of the time,
Wow.
but the
So,
full embodied.
yeah.
And I did do that at first frequently. I would only allow them fully in my body to the point where, I mean, you feel nauseous. You feel like, because
Okay.
you physically feel full of their
Wow.
energy. That has since changed. The way that they interact with my nervous system is different now. So for those listening who are also like interacting and engaging with guides and, or channeling close soul family galactic beings or groups that they trust, right? I'm just making that a point to say that, because there's still some stuff,
Yeah.
you still want to, you want to know who you're channeling and be very heart engaged through the heart and all that. But the point is, we're all unique. And back then, when you're coming in, you don't know that you're all unique. There's just one way you're supposed to do this. And, but yeah, so they've changed the way that they interact with me, and with different people, different channels. It's going to feel different,
Right.
different connected energies, and guides interact with me differently. I've had a guide come in, and I don't know how I got on this topic, and literally soothe. I could feel her inside my brain, like on the flesh.
Wow.
It was a cool to the touch, and she was massaging it. This was way back at the beginning, even, Todd. I could feel them even more individually back then because it was so new. You tune in more when it's new specifically. So yeah, it was like they made sure that it was irrefutable. It's almost like they want us to know.
Yeah.
And they are us, and they are our family. So, they're not running the show. They're helping us do what we came here to do, but it's like irrefutable. Like, this is, you're not imagining this. So those of you out there who, it's coming in, getting a guide is good though. Somebody to guide through it. But where was that? Oh yeah, Earth Mother. So Earth Mother has been coming through a totally different way to ground. We did it last night with, I know Brian Henry. So I met with a group of people that work with him, because he's going to have an event coming up here pretty soon. And the energy there was like lit, by the way, and everybody was calm and everything, and you couldn't tell it, but I feel all of that. So I was like, it's lit in here. You guys look calm, but it is lit, And that's another thing. Like, it's like you don't even know how much is going on. Like, we're so ready for this. And so we did this grounding, and what's happening, what she's telling me to do is, and Kalina Malnar and Shekinah Rose also had a message after I did this the first time with Earth Mother and wrote something from the Earth Mother. Then they came through and said that Earth Mother was coming up through, I think, expressing through the yoni. Like, there was a different way that they were connecting as well. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So this is really like, so she's telling me real strong that we're writing this whole thing new. This is how it keeps coming out. So I'm trying to say it exactly as it's coming through to me, even though they're just words, but she's telling me when I am maybe perhaps saying, is this a good idea to do this? Are we taking, and she's like, you're writing it new. You have the power to write this completely new. It's a new frequency. Get off of the old rules, what you thought was bad before. You're going to come in with this through this new heart frequency, and you're going to make these new creations that literally rewrite the laws of what you thought of, even as what was not detrimental or not harmful to the earth. I'm trying to let her say it, but I'm trying to say this in a way that also makes sense. But because it is still important to have this connection and be responsible. But she's saying we have the power to rewrite what that even means, because there is a new level of, she's saying the word comfort. Now that's going to trigger people. So I'm like arguing with her a little bit. Like, I know that's going to be a little bit of a trigger, because we're not going for comfort at the expense of someone else, or to live in some whatever we think of as success and luxury and blah, blah, blah. That's not what's meant by that. But just to be able to sustain ourselves, but joyfully, with beauty and love, like this sort of thing. So we're going to be able to write this bigger, like in a bigger way than what we realize. We're still too attached to the old way.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm like, I see it. I don't see how we can go without the disillusion of borders, the passports, all
Uh,
this stuff.
yeah.
I really, and and people say, well, it's going to be this way. It's a big ship. It's got to turn slow. But I think this is what Mother Earth, Earth Mother is telling you, is that there are no rules here. This is a whole new landscape. You're actually creating from Eden-esque original energy.
Yes.
And this is interesting too, because here we go with the connecting the dots again. So one of these fabulous ladies that came on this week, I can't remember who it was talking about what she was very connected to Earth Mother, and she was talking about basically the same thing you are. Like she was saying, look, these are the new rules of engagement, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is strange. So this night that I had the little thing in the car, and then I went and Morgan and I connected. I believe it would have been 2 nights ago. But anyway, so what happened was Morgan's like you. She's extremely galactic. Like I have animal encounters all the time, and element, all things, right? Nature beings, mountain beings, and I don't have as much galactic, and but I have a little. Now we have this session, we connect, we're both kind of channeling, and I'm seeing nothing but golden beings at the beginning, and they're definitely galactic, right? And some stuff was happening. I said, what's going on with you? 2 wolves show up. Okay. And the 2 wolves show up, and a whole thing happened, and I really probably should talk to her before I say what happened. But it was this whole thing, right? And she's going, what the hell are these wolves doing here? What is this all about? Now she's seeing like the earth up close, grass. I mean, and then there was the thing she wrote about, which was about the Aboriginal ceremony that was actually sacred wisdom from the stars, like the gods had done it. It was a deep kind of thing. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because of the lady before, and of what the Earth Mother's telling you, and the fact that here's this galactic having this very earthy, connection and communion. So, I mean, I wonder, it would make sense though that Mother Earth would be on point. You know what I mean? Like when you know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say it's completely connecting in the grounding. Like, okay, I'm pulling her up still through my root, although people are doing it differently. I really liked the way Kalina and Shekinah Rose talked about it. I haven't met either one of them either, but I feel like I know, how it is. I feel it doesn't matter.
Just come to Sedona.
I need to. I know it.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm still coming up through my root, right? Or sending the cord down to the core. That's one way. A lot of people recognize that. But then she's saying pull. Basically, the goddess is involved directly. Because Earth Mother was saying, request again, light from the goddess, come through your crown. And the energy comes up through all these energy centers, whatever you want to call them, and they meet in the middle. And these frequencies, depending on how this session go, the meditation goes, it could do some different things, but it ends in the heart space. And then through that, and this is the way I'm like, well, should I put my hands out? She says, you don't have to do that, but I did anyway. But I could see the energy, the heart energy come out through the field. There's like another layer of the heart frequencies. Okay, so here, this is just a visual to put us in the mind. This isn't literal, right? But if you picture a grid on the earth, like very close to the earth where the denser energies are, this is just for proximity. That's not really what's happening. And then you go where we typically are with the more heart frequency. We'll just imagine for a moment it's much farther above that if we're talking about it that way. Well, this energy was meeting in the middle. It was in between those 2 layers. And it was appearing like a grid, like a network of light all across the planet, all across. That's how her energy met with the goddess energy and then spread out all over the planet. And this new group that's coming in, that's what they're going to be able to connect to, but they're not quite to the point where they're, just brave enough. This is collectively, it's going to happen. But collectively, they're not quite where they're going to announce this necessarily yet, but they're feeling, it's all just, they don't even know what it is. They're going to feel this energy.
When did this happen?
Okay,
you?
so this first started, I'm gonna say, because I'm bad with time. I'm
But I
so
mean,
bad with
like,
time.
but like, was this present for you in the past few days?
Yes, I was gonna
Okay,
say, I was gonna guess it about a week ago, but it could
okay,
have been even closer to 2 weeks ago, but it
okay,
probably around a week ago
right.
is when all of it like really, really
Well, that
hit.
sounds like what she was talking about. And again,
Okay,
the pink atomic bomb thing. I was shown that when I came to Sedona, I took a 16-minute video because I was sitting in the car, and I mean, I've never been this connected to the mother goddess. And so she
okay,
gets me over here. I take a break. I'm sitting in the car. It's about 5 o'clock, and she says, "Get in the car and drive." And so I just drove, and
yeah,
then she says,
yeah.
"Pull over," and I literally pulled over on this side road, and there was a little turnaround, a dirt turnaround. I pull over, and there's this sunset with this monsoon going on, and all this stuff, all this pink, right? Like, it was crazy. I filmed it. I
Oh
mean,
my
how do you
gosh,
make that up? Well,
exactly.
what she was telling me was that, and this would have been late July. Uh,
Okay,
she's here. Don't have to worry about it no more.
yeah,
There's all the fuckery aside. Uh, we're good. It was kind of that. And so that reminded me when Morgan started talking about this pink bomb, right?
yeah,
And then what you're telling me feels like the same thing. And again, to me, it feels like this period, this is it. I mean,
yeah,
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And I'm not saying it's going to happen literally, and I'm not going to see a solar flash, but what you're talking about, all these people that are going to come into consciousness, even though they may not say it, to me, that also falls in line with what a lot of people, including Franco, end of 2020, that there was a huge number of walk-ins that were going to occur. And the reason that was important is because if you look at Edgar Casey, Doris Cannon, Franco, and so on,
yeah, yeah.
30-40% of the bodies were inhabited by individual souls, where there was these NPCs that were coming from a collective soul, but these were all being walk-in, with individual souls. So to me, that would make sense. That it would take a couple of years for it to come out on the timeline. But this is what
Okay,
it feels like to me.
okay.
It feels like literally we're on the other side.
Yeah,
And I realize for some people that may take, but I literally feel like we're not going
and
to be
it's
seeing this whole 2 steps up, 1 step back thing anymore.
exactly that yo-yo thing that
Yeah, yeah,
yes, because it's gonna be gradual, it's gonna be gradual and gradually appear, but it's good that we're talking about it and acknowledging it, because for us to be able to recognize it makes it all the better, because when we
yeah,
when we don't
yeah,
recognize it and we're not aware, that's still okay, but we're also what we're doing with our, I'm going to say, lack of awareness, but that sounds so bad. I don't mean it in a bad way, but we're producing different quantum information. So the quantum activity sort of bumps up against what's trying to happen, because we're co-creators.
right,
We
right,
are co-creating all of this. So the more aware we are, we can actually support with the quantum information of the awareness. Like my belief supports that this is happening. And so in recognizing it, it boosts that foundation.
right. Yeah,
Okay, so yeah,
yeah.
and that's at least I'm not getting that right
Oh no,
now from
that's
the experience, but
I get that. That's what I get from you.
mhm.
And we're gonna have to go, but I could
Oh,
talk. We could talk forever. We could do another show, talk for 3 or 4 hours
I
if we want
know
to.
we could keep
This is
this
awesome.
going. Should
But
bring Morgan on and
yeah,
Nicole.
that would be awesome. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I wanted to do a women's panel on Tuesday, but one of them, she got sick with the energy.
Oh,
But yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
would be
yeah.
a really good thing to do. What I was envisioning was like her, people that pull in the intel that's unique, but it's all kind of converging. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would be an interesting conversation to me. But like, just to
Yeah.
conclude what you were saying, I feel like that that's okay. So there's truth frequency, and then there's, from the human perspective, believability, right? And I believe what you're describing is they're getting hit with the truth frequency. They're still not out of the program enough to be able to go talk about it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
And they don't
they're going to
understand it
seek,
necessarily.
yeah, but that, what you were saying, they're going to seek those like you they're going to poke their head in the door,
Yep.
and their believability is going to kick in, and then that's going to
Mhm.
be throw the children into the equation. That's the end of it. It's
Oh,
over. That's it.
that's
That's why I don't buy this 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I'm not here. I tell them every night, I'm not here for that. Let's do it. I'm not that we want to miss any steps, but this whole carrot on the stick thing, I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
I understand.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
in
Todd.
and wow, blasting us into I think I'm out at Neptune right now. But no, that was you're a lot of information, a lot of code, and thank you so much for the work you do, because you do help a lot of people. And I really do appreciate you coming on. I'd love to do it again with you sometime.
Yes, yes. Thanks, Todd.
All right. Best to you and your sons, and
Thank you.
don't let them run you too ragged.
I know, right?